Excellent question. I'll answer that just as soon as I can. Okay, bye-bye. Have a good day. Don't be a statistic. Most people that start with horses never continue. I can't begin to tell you how many people begin with horses, swear that they've always been into horses, this is all they've ever dreamt of, and don't worry about it, I'm going to see them every week or every month for the rest of my life. And then the phone rings about 2 weeks later when they realize they're in over their head, and I never hear from them again. Don't let this happen to you. Take some simple advice when you go to buy your horse. Thank you for calling. Bernice Newrider from Longview, Texas, is buying a new horse. She called me to ask, hey, what do I need to keep in mind when I'm buying a horse, especially because this is the first time I'll be doing so? The first thing that you need to keep in mind is that everybody lies. I don't care if you're buying the horse from your grandmother. Don't trust anybody. What happens is that people start to rationalize. They could be wonderful people at heart 99% of the time. But what's going to happen is that they've got a horse out in the yard, the vet bills, the shoeing, the upkeep, just the feeding the horse is killing them financially, and they need to get rid of the dumb thing. So when you show up, what they're going to start to do is rationalize. They'll rationalize as to whether or not that horse is safe for you based on what you tell them about your ability to train or to ride a horse. They're going to rationalize their way into telling you anything that you want to hear. When you arrange to go see the horse, make sure that it's a surprise visit, because believe it or not, people will actually drug horses, okay? If they've got some crazy horse, what they'll do is they'll drug it to calm it down right before you show up. Then you show up to ride the horse, and the horse is all sedate, and you fall in love, and you buy it, and you take it home, and the next day the drug is worn off, and the horse is completely out of its mind. What happened, you ask? The bottom line is that you want to make your visits to see the horse, to ride the horse, completely unexpected. Now, maybe it's not fair to just show up within 5 minutes of the time that you first call, but give them a window, okay? Give them a 3 or 4 hour window. Ask if that's okay, and try to arrive as unexpectedly as possible. So if you're not going to trust anybody, one of the things that you're going to do is when they say, sure, you can ride my horse, the very first thing that comes out of your mouth at that point should be, okay, great, you go ride it first. Don't trust anybody, because again, they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. Okay, maybe that horse bucked once last week or once last year, or maybe it's been in the past year, 5 years since it bolted or bucked or it reared. What they're going to do is rationalize in their head that it only happens once in a while. It was an isolated incident. It's never happened since then. Quit crying, I didn't make you buy that horse. Now this has happened to me, or actually to clients that I've worked with, where you'll be working with the client for a week or 2 or 3, and the horse, for instance, it has issues moving forward. Now most of the time that's simply because it's a horse that's learned to have its way. It's just kind of a bratty issue, right? But at least once, I've had clients who have found that their horse was permanently lame in not one, but both back legs. When this happens, okay, they've got a lawn ornament. They don't have a horse they can ride or their kid can someday ride. They have a lawn ornament that they're now stuck with. What I want you to do is insist on a vet pre-purchase exam. Okay, do not put any money down or write your contract in such a way that if the horse should fail its pre-purchase vet exam, that you can get your money back, that you can bring the horse back, that the deal is off. When the vet does his exam, make sure that you ask for and get x-rays of the legs, okay? That's something that will drive the price up a little bit, but I guarantee you it's going to be worth it, because before you put it in training with somebody like myself, you have to absolutely make sure that there's no long-standing issues with that horse's legs. A, of course, we don't want to force it into doing something when it's in pain, and B, you don't want to be stuck with a horse that can't be ridden. Like your car, horses are going to need tune-ups. Keep that in mind, because it doesn't matter how your horse is acting the day you buy it. If you're not a professional horse trainer yourself, what's going to happen is that horse is eventually going to get rusty around the edges. What this means is that any of the little issues you see today are only going to grow. They're only going to get bigger. And what that also means is that they're also only going to get more dangerous. So you need to factor in what it's going to cost to bring in a professional trainer once a month, once a year, whatever is needed in order to get that horse back into shape, back into a situation that is safer for you. If you only remember one thing today that I tell you, if you are not an accomplished horse person, and by that I mean somebody with a ton of experience, if you're a novice or you're an intermediate, whatever you do, don't buy a horse off the track, don't buy an ex-barrel racer, don't buy a horse from the circus, don't buy a horse from the movies. All those horses are programmed to do one thing, and that's going to be to get you hurt. They want to go really fast. They don't want to stop. They want to bolt or buck or rear, whatever they've been trained to do. If you get a horse off the track, for instance, that horse knows one thing, and it's to go very, very, very fast. There's no such thing as brakes, for instance. Race horses are very dangerous for novice riders. I've lost count of how many people I've pulled off of race horses because they're in over their heads and they're about to get killed. You, as a novice or intermediate, a non-professional horse trainer, are not going to be able to deal with such a situation because you're going to be worried about staying on or getting the horse trained in various other ways. You're going to have to call in a professional trainer. Better yet, in such a situation, you'd have to send it off for months to be reprogrammed by somebody who really knows what they're doing. When you go out to buy a horse, you need to match that horse's ability with yours. Now, by that, I don't mean that if you're a green rider, you get a green horse. That's the last thing you should do. I get so many emails from people who say something akin to, my son is 6, he's never had a lesson, I bought him a green 2-year-old horse who's never had training, I figured they could learn together. That is a recipe for disaster, okay? You are asking to get somebody killed. If you're a novice or a beginner rider, what you need is a horse that can cart you around and frankly can override the commands you might give it that don't make any dang sense. Because if that horse is green and you don't really quite know what you're doing with the training, you're going to give it mixed signals. You're not going to know what to do. The horse is going to throw you a curve, okay? And then what's going to happen is that he doesn't know what he's doing, you don't know what you're doing, it's a vicious circle, and you end up with a very dangerous situation. You need a horse that'll cart you around in circles, that won't shy every time a plastic bag blows across the aisle, every time a dog barks. You want a horse that you can just get on top of and learn how to steer, learn how to sit there, learn how to ride the lope or the canter. Don't buy a horse because he's the right color, or because he's beautiful, or because you just connected, or because he nuzzled up to you when you first got there, or he just seemed to be the right fit for you. You want to be paying for the brains with this horse. You want a horse that's older and experienced at carrying around people. Now, a lot of times what that's going to mean is that you get some older horse that's not got a lot of gas left in it. Okay, so maybe you only get a year or 2 or 3 or 4 out of this older horse, but you need that time to learn. You're going to need the 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 years that you have left with that older horse to learn how to ride. Because trust me, if you get a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old horse with no training, and you've had no training, it's mathematically impossible for you to learn and train that horse at the same time. What happens is that you as a novice rider will give inconsistent commands. Those inconsistent commands will then confuse the horse. The horse will then rebel. The horse will sull up. He'll either freeze and refuse to go, or he'll go 200 miles an hour, or he'll buck, or he'll bolt, or he'll bite you, or he'll find some other way to rebel. He may do the opposite. He may just pull himself into a shell and just stand there. You as a novice will not know how to deal with this, and things will go from bad to worse. If you ignore my advice, then in about 1 year, maybe 2, that horse is either going to be out in the pasture, completely unused, neglected, and forgotten about, or you're going to be lying to the next poor schnook who comes knocking on your door looking to buy a horse.